Hey everyone, welcome to Kate's moving in a few weeks and has a lot of anxiety and she's trying to get rid of everything she owns. It's gonna be a huge declutter today. I've gone through all my makeup and I got really specific and really honest with myself about what products I'm actually using and what products are just sitting there not being touched. If you're new here, my name's Kate and my personal makeup philosophy is that even though I'm a YouTuber, I just want to own the products that I actually reach for on a regular basis. Otherwise, I would rather send products to, followers or fellow content creators, so those products are going to get used before they expire. And I'm just the kind of person who likes owning fewer things. So I wanted to preface this declutter by saying that most of these products have actually gotten a positive review from me at some point. I've just realized over time that I'm not reaching for them, and so this video is going to explain why that is. And I've taken a month and a half and I have filmed application clips for every single product in this video, and I have so many products we might have to turn this into a series. And the last preface I have is I just wanted to share I've been going through a really hard time with my skin. I have been going through SIBO treatment. If you don't know what that is, it's small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And because my gut microbiome has just been all out of whack for the past 9 weeks of treatment, a lot of the application clips feature me heavily breaking out in like full acne rashes. And I just gotta be honest with you, it makes me feel really insecure being on camera when I have bad breakouts. But I wanted to put the application clips in anyways. I'm almost 34 and acne is still a struggle for me, both physically and mentally. And I know it's not gonna bother any of you, but I just wanted to call it out for my own peace of mind. I do have one quick empty I want to share with you. It's the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer in light medium. It's my favorite cream bronzer, and you'll see in this declutter, I do get rid of all of my other cream bronzers because this is my favorite, and I'm not going to reach for anything else if I want to reach for this. Let's start with skincare. I don't have a ton of skincare items I'm decluttering because I actually keep my skincare collection quite small since I have very sensitive skin. I was influenced by a lot of content creators to try the Slurp Labs Decult Toner, Moisturizing Toner. It's essentially a hydrating and moisturizing liquid toner, but it has a little bit of a gentle exfoliant in there, and so many people have said that this just clears out their blackheads, it reduces breakouts, it basically is a miracle product. Unfortunately for me, I just haven't been able to test it long enough to really see results because I use my tretinoin or my Epiduo Forte pretty much every night. And because this is a gentle exfoliant, if I use it in the same routine as a retinoid, it just irritates my skin. And so there's just really no opportunity for me to use this. And in the morning, it doesn't make sense for me to use it because I always use my antioxidant serum. And antioxidant serum with a gentle exfoliant is just too much for my skin. So unfortunately, I just don't see how I can fit this into my routine. The next product I'm decluttering is the Laneige Lip Sleeping Mask and Caramel Apple. Now, I love the lip sleeping masks. My two favorites are Berry and Pink Lemonade. I'm such a sucker for fruity scents. I just love it. And my partner John's favorite is Vanilla. So we're a big lip sleeping mask household here. But you know what? I just don't like the ones they have that are tinted, because if I apply this at night, it's just going to end up on my white pillows because it does have a bit of an orange tint. And also, it really smells heavily of caramel, and I wanted that apple punch in there too. So it's just a little bit too sweet for me, and I would have loved for it to be clear. So I'm gonna pass this to a friend. Some of you may be surprised by this one, but you know what? I've just decided to declutter my Make Beauty, and I never remember the name of this one. It's so confusing. The Hydrascape Moisturizing Reverse Emulsion. It's basically a super runny, almost liquidy moisturizer, but it's really tacky and occlusive. It's unlike any texture I've ever tried. The problem is that this is way too dewy and wet looking for me to wear during the daytime when I prefer a soft matte finish. And at nighttime, I really prefer moisturizers that are more soothing because I do use my tretinoin or my Epiduo Forte every night. For that, I love the Pharmacy Honey Halo. So I've just realized I'm not reaching for this despite the fact that I really do enjoy it. So I'd rather send it to a friend who wants to try it. Okay, I feel really guilty about this one. This was a mistake that I made and I'm gonna own it. I gave this a glowing review. I think I did say that it was a little bit too dewy for me, but I knew when I was reviewing this that it just felt too dewy for me, but I kept trying to make it work because all of my friends said that this is their favorite sunscreen. You know, I'm only human. I try to be really conscious and thoughtful about my purchasing habits. And so when I purchased this, I knew that it looked too dewy on my friends, but I just got influenced because of all the hype and I'm feeling really guilty about it. I should have stuck to my guns. I should have known that I prefer a soft matte finish. And it is lovely. I mean, it's an SPF 50 mineral sunscreen with 22.75% zinc oxide, which is a lot. And it matches my skin perfectly. It has a great tint. It's just that it looks too wet looking. And you know, I made a mistake on this one. I shouldn't have purchased it. And this is a good reminder that I need to check back in with myself and, think deeply about my personal preferences prior to purchasing something just based on hype. So just to be clear, This is a really great sunscreen, but I like a soft matte finish, and this is quite a dewy finish. So if you have really dry skin and you love a more dewy looking sunscreen that's a mineral sunscreen, highly recommend this. Let's talk primers and setting sprays. You know, I have had two primers that I really do enjoy, the Milk Hydro Grip Primer and the Exa Splash Zone Oil-Free Hydrating Primer, but I just don't need them. I work from home, so when I wear makeup, it's just for a few hours of meetings, and I always have the opportunity to touch up throughout the day. And honestly, I have foundations that perform so well. I really don't find an issue with my makeup not lasting very well, except for cream blushes, but I don't find that these affect the performance of my cream blushes anyway, so it just feels like an unnecessary step. I also find that because I only use mineral sunscreens, primers tend to interact kind of weirdly with my sunscreen, and I especially have difficulties with the Milk Hydro Grip one with my sunscreen, and it kind of starts pilling. It is a great primer though, like it's super sticky, so it makes your makeup just adhere to your face. It's just that with the sunscreen that I love using, I don't think it's the best match. My favorite primer is the Exa Splash Zone Primer, but again, I'm not using it. I just find that I like fewer steps in my routine. It really doesn't make that much of a difference. What's cool about it though is you can use it like a powder. So if you just apply a little bit of the primer on your fingers and tap it over your makeup, it's a great way to mattify your skin without adding powder that can look a little bit cakey. So it is a really great product. I just find that, you know, it doesn't do enough for me to really justify keeping it in my collection. And since I'm moving in a few weeks, I am massively downsizing everything that I own: clothes, shoes, hair products, you know, skincare, makeup, everything. And considering these are pretty full, I'd rather them go to someone who wants them. The next one is the Youthforia Pregame Skin Moisturizing Setting Spray. I have not found that this does anything at all. It doesn't make my makeup last longer. It doesn't make my skin more hydrated. It doesn't control shine. I truly don't know what this is supposed to do. I also just really have a bit of a bone to pick with Youthforia as a brand. They've really built their brand off of criticizing other brands, and I find that to be a really bad look. For example, they launched their blush oil by comparing it to the Fenty cream blush and saying like, look how much better our blush oil is than the Fenty cream blush. And I just thought that it was not a very graceful introduction into the beauty world. And then they launched a foundation and they really didn't have any deep shades, but they tried to convince us that they had deep shades. It was a whole fiasco. I'll actually leave a reel linked on the screen above. I think Jackie Aina, if I remember, she kind of explained why the founder's statement about foundations was problematic. And while I don't really have a strict rule about boycotting brands anymore on my channel, I just felt like it left a bad taste in my mouth. And since this does nothing, I don't need it. I don't know if you can tell, but there is a lot of construction going on today, and my editor is a magician who is helping to filter out all of the construction noises. I didn't even know that you could do that, so I'm feeling very grateful right now. Everybody give Maggie a shout out. I have this lip tinted sponge, and honestly, I just don't use it. It's super, super pointy. I honestly just don't really feel like it's the best shape for my under eyes, so I'm gonna pass it on. On to foundation. So first up, we have the Glossier Stretch Foundation in Light 4. This was sent to me by a lovely subscriber. We did a makeup swap. She didn't want this, and it was very bizarre. I'll drop in a B-roll clip of me applying the shade Light 1, which was from a little blister pack from Sephora. And Light 1 looked amazing, and ever since I tried that, I had been thinking about the Glossier foundation every day and just thinking about how beautiful my skin looked. It had a natural to slightly dewy finish, beautiful medium coverage, and I just loved— oh, hummingbird! Hi! Oh, came right up to the glass and it was like, that was so cute. Okay. Anyways, aren't hummingbirds a good sign or something? I don't know. We'll roll with it. So when I tried the Glossier foundation in Light 1, I just thought it looked amazing. And then you'll see in the clip for Light 4, I do not know what happened. I haven't changed my skincare routine at all. And it looks crusty. It settles into all my pores and hair follicles. It looks textured. It's bizarre. But I do find that after about an hour, the foundation starts to almost settle in with my skin, and it does look a little bit more natural. But there's just some bizarre difference between the one that I got in the sample pack and the full size. It's also way too yellow, and it's described as having pink undertones, and it absolutely does not. It's super, super, super yellow. So I think I'll try to swatch it in stores, but honestly, I have my Armani Luminous Silk Foundation, which is my holy grail, so I don't really need two foundations. I have held on to the Chanel, what is it, Le Beige Water Fresh Complexion Touch for about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years now. And every time I try it, I think today's gonna be the day. Today's gonna be the day that this doesn't pill on me. And it's never that day. way. It makes me so mad because this has my perfect finish of a base product. It has a skin-like natural finish. It has medium coverage. It doesn't look super dewy. It has this almost airbrushed finish on the skin. I absolutely love the way it looks from far away, but up close, it's a damn disaster. It pills everywhere no matter what I do. And honestly, my skincare routine is really important to me. And if I have to change the skincare that's underneath to fit a makeup product, I ain't gonna use it. The only way I can get this to work is on bare, dry skin with no skincare and no sunscreen. And I am never gonna do that. So this has gotta go. I'm also decluttering the Make Diffusion Dew Radiant Skin Tint. I kept this around even though I absolutely hate this product because I was gonna do a Make Beauty brand review. And then as I started trying more and more Make products, I realized I just really don't align with their products. Like my beauty preferences are kind of the opposite of what they're doing in makeup. But regarding Diffusion Dew, this is sparkly. Like this has huge chunks of glitter in it, and it's also incredibly warm and yellow. I couldn't find a shade match for me, and while it did look beautiful from far away, it's a little too dewy, and it's just the sparkliness of it was absolutely bizarre. I know I filmed a bunch of different clips and a lot of different pictures, so I'll put them here so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm assuming that the ingredient that's making it look like that is mica, and I just never get along with mica. I find that mica makes the skin look really textured. I tend to just avoid any complexion products that are sparkly. I don't really want my skin to look like that. I want my skin to have a soft matte finish, so then I can just control where the glow is gonna go. The next one's heartbreaking. My L'Oreal True Match foundations. I love these so much. They have a beautiful finish. I love the price point, obviously, compared to my Armani, which is my holy grail. Unfortunately, these just break me out, and I love that they have medium buildable coverage. I love that there's a natural but slightly dewy finish. Pretty long lasting too. Man, I really wanted this to work, but something in here, every time I wear it, I notice these little breakouts around my chin. Just not worth it for me, unfortunately. Concealer time! Okay, the first concealer that I'm gonna declutter is a new release. It's the YSL All Hours Concealer, and I hated everything about this. I think every single aspect of this concealer is the opposite of what I like in a concealer formula. This is super thin, so I find that it really settles into lines. I prefer a thicker, tackier finish concealer. I find that those really keep the coverage in place. This is so thin and spreadable, the coverage just disappears. It claims to be full coverage. I don't even think this is light medium coverage. It's like a solid light coverage concealer, and that's it. The applicator also barely has any product on it, so I have to dip several times. It made my under eyes look dry and cakey and textured, and I got so many DMs from people saying the same thing. And the shade LC1 is supposed to have pink undertones, but it looks super warm and yellow on me. Surprise, surprise, story of my life. So I don't know what was up with this. I feel like the marketing for this is so off, and I dislike it very much. Next, we have the Make Beauty Mimetic Skin Concealer, and this is in the shade 3 Light C. It does not have much coverage, but it's not marketed as being full coverage. So at least I appreciate that they're marketing it correctly. It's just that I do prefer a fuller coverage concealer under my eyes since I do have quite a bit of volume loss. But I do recommend this if you prefer a light coverage concealer. I do think it's a nice finish. It didn't make my under eyes look too cakey or dry like a lot of concealers do. But for me, since there was no shade match and I prefer more full coverage, it's just not the product for me. So just wanted to show you with the Make Diffusion Dew and the concealer how yellow and dark my face looks compared to my body. Definitely not the best shade matches for me, but what can you do? The next concealer I have been debating decluttering for a few weeks now, and I think it's just time for me to do it. Honestly, it's the Givenchy Skin Caring Concealer, and I absolutely loved this when I first tried it. But since then, I have added a bunch of other new concealers to my collection that I much prefer over this. So my holy grail is the Fit Glow Concealer, then the Live Tinted, which I'm wearing today, and then the House Labs. Those are my 3 favorite under eye concealers. This is number 4, and I'm just not gonna reach for a number 4 concealer if I have a 3, a 2, and a 1 that I prefer. This has a beautiful soft matte finish to it. It has medium buildable coverage, and I think that C240 is a pretty good shade match for my skin. The issue for me is that this concealer is so slippy and so blendable that even when I powder my under eyes, which I don't normally need to do, it just moves and slides around. It instantly creases, so I just much prefer a concealer with a tackier finish, and I would rather give this to someone who's gonna enjoy it. And if you want to know more more about my favorite concealers, I'll leave a video for you linked on the screen above. The Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. This is in the shade Creme Brûlée, and I've tried this concealer, oh my god, so many times over the many years that this has been on the market, and it has never ever looked good on me. I don't know how so many makeup artists swear by this. Maybe I'm just not prepping my skin the right way. I don't know, but I really don't feel like I should have to change my skincare to get a makeup product to look good when I have so many that work great. This is dry and cakey. It doesn't give me the coverage I want. It just looks really dry and makes my under eyes look textured. So I don't get the hype about this, but since I've posted about this quite a bit on YouTube, I know a lot of you have had issues with this too, and it's just time that she goes. I'm also decluttering the Urban Decay Stay Naked Quickie up to 24-hour wear multi-use concealer. This is in the shade 30 CP. First of all, this concealer shade is too dark and way too yellow for me, even though I sound like a broken record, but it's supposed to have cool pink undertones, and it's just very, very warm on my skin. This also smells incredibly strongly of paint. Wow, really strongly. I mean, it's like offensive to the nose, and it dries down so fast that it does have that kind of alcohol feeling to it, I think, and it's a little bit drying under the eyes. I do like that it's full coverage, but it just looked dry and there wasn't a great shade match. This brings me to a little bit of a tangent here. There's this push and pull that you experience when you are a creator in social media and you are reviewing products, where you want to get the reviews up as fast as possible. So when this first launched, I quickly did a review on Instagram and got my thoughts up. But when you're always filming new reviews, it's really difficult to take the time to form your thoughts on every product in a concrete way. And I think if I had given myself just like an extra few weeks of testing this, I would have realized that it wasn't for me, and I probably could have returned it within the return window. So sadly, I changed my mind about this, and I'm just not going to reach for it when I have so many others that I really love now. And lastly, for concealers, I have the Makeup Forever Full Cover Concealers. These have been my absolute go-to holy grail blemish concealers for since I can remember loving makeup. The problem is, in the past maybe 2 years, I've noticed that the formula is different than it used to be. The original formula truly felt waterproof. Like, you would put it on a blemish and it would just lock down and it would not budge. It was remarkable. You could go swimming in it and you would still come out with your makeup looking perfect. It was incredible. Now there's a really slippery component to the formula where it just does not adhere to the blemishes. So now I just use my Fit Glow concealer on my blemishes, and that's just working fine for me, and it's eliminated how many products I have to own. So let me know, has anyone else experienced this, or am I the only one who feels this way? Because it's very bizarre, and I haven't heard anyone else mention that there might be a formula change. I have one brow pencil I'm decluttering, and it's my holy grail, but it is in a shade that doesn't really work for me. I bought the shade Dark Brunette of the L'Oreal Brow Stylist Definer, and when I dyed my hair a little bit darker, and I thought that this would be a warmer shade, but it is very, very gray toned brown. So this one just doesn't work with my complexion. My normal shade now is just Brunette. I'm decluttering both of the Saie Sun Melt bronzers I have. I have the shade Fair Bronze and Light Bronze, and first I'll show you a clip of Fair Bronze so you can see that this is practically a foundation shade for me. It really just does not show up. I can put like 4 layers and there's just a barely there little hint of bronze. So this one's an easy declutter for me, but I love the undertones. It's on the cooler side. I just wish that it were like a little bit darker. And then the Sun Melt bronzer in Light Bronze is too dark and also way too orange for me. As you can see in the clip, I can totally get it to work when I'm wearing a more high neck shirt. But if I were wearing a V-neck, you would see a huge difference between my face and my chest. And ultimately, I'm just not gonna reach for this when I have my Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer that I adore and I use every single day. Also, there's a weird difference between Fair Bronze and Light Bronze. Fair Bronze almost feels like the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer. It's so much more emollient and blendable, but Light Bronze is so much stiffer, and I don't really understand why. But both have a gorgeous, almost blurred airbrushed finish on the skin. It's just that the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer is so much more emollient and just blends so much faster than these that I'm just never gonna reach for them. I'm also decluttering the Milk Makeup, it doesn't say what it is, but it's the matte bronzer stick in the shade Baked. This one is even stiffer than the Saie Sun Melt bronzer, and as you can see, the shade Baked is just way too orange for my skin. Again, I can make it work if I'm wearing a high neck shirt, but trust me, if I'm wearing a V-neck, the difference in undertones of my face versus my chest is very stark. So I really do need bronzers that have a little bit more of a cool toned quality to them, otherwise they look very unnatural. And this goes on quite stiff. It does blend out pretty easily, but I don't know, I just feel like I'm never gonna reach for it. I got it in PR and I've used it once, so I'd rather just send it to someone who wants it. Blushes, blushes, it's blush time. It's blush time. Woo! For blush, let's start with M Cosmetics. I'm going to declutter the So Soft Blush Stick in Chiffon. This is just a shade thing. I do think that this formula is gorgeous. The So Soft line is stunning. It really is like so soft. It just blends like a dream so quickly. It almost feels like as you're blending, it's a powder. It's so nice. The shade Chiffon is really beautiful. It's a cool toned pink, very light, and even a little bit on the lavendery side. I just find that I don't really wear makeup looks that go with this blush very well. I tend to wear bronzier eyeshadows and slightly warmer lips, and so this just contrasts that, and I really just have never found myself reaching for this shade. My perfect shade is Demure. It's like my perfect nude cream blush. It's such a great nude color for my complexion, so I reach for Demure all the time, and I'm just gonna pass this on to someone who wants it. I'm also gonna declutter their Pillow Plush blush in the shade Tickled. Honestly, just had a really difficult time with this formula. I could not find any tool that applied this easily. It just kind of always went on a little bit patchy, and while it does have an airbrushed finish, I just found this formula really tricky to work with, so it's just not the one for me. And in case you're wondering, my lip combo today, this is the, what is it? The Sephora Retractable Gel Liner in Sink or Suede with the Rhode Peptide Lip Tint in Ribbon. Sticking with the theme of products I know I shouldn't have purchased, and I purchased against my best judgment, we have the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veil in Perfect Pink. First of all, this color I just don't think is for me. It's a little bit too something, and I'm not sure what that something is because I love pink blush, but it doesn't look very natural on my skin. This is also wet looking, like wet looking. And the only way for me to control the shine on this is if I constantly powder, and I just don't have the time for that. So, man, this was another one where I spent money and I shouldn't have because I knew that this looked too dewy for me, but everybody was raving about it and it looked so beautiful in everybody's videos. I just wanted to try it for myself, but I really need to think more critically and think deeply about what my personal preferences are. And if I had taken a second, I would have known that this was not for me. But you know, I also have a channel and I like to review new products. So there is a little bit of a push and pull there, like the devil and the angel on your shoulder. And because this has only been used like 3 times, I'd rather send it to someone who's going to use it. Sadly, it's time to declutter all of my Phytosurgence Skin Spark blush bombs. And first, I'll just give you the general reason and then we can talk about the shade issues I have. So this is the shade Exothermic, and you can see all those tiny little hardened bubbles of waxes and butters. If you don't use the Phytosurgence blushes, this is what happens to them. You can see it happens here with the shade Fume. This is my most used Phytosurgence blush, but it still happens with this one. And you can see it also happened with this shade Evaporate as well. Now, I've been told if you use these regularly that the texture doesn't change, but for me, I just don't love the finish of these on my skin. The color fades extremely fast on me, and I also find that while these look beautifully kind of airbrushed at first with a slightly dewy finish, over time, something about this formula just turns really dewy on my cheeks. So the formula fades, it looks too dewy, and I really don't like the issues of the hardened butters and waxes. Now, you totally can blend the butters and waxes like on the back of your hand and then apply the blush, but I'm just not gonna reach for a product if I have to do a little bit of extra work when I have so many other blushes that I can just boop, 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 and go. And as for the colors, I just find that every Phytosurgence blush is too warm for my skin and every eyeshadow is a little too cool toned. Their colors just don't really align with my personal preferences. For example, Fume was described as like a dusty rose, but it looks very peachy on my skin, and so I realized it's just not something I'd reach for. I thought Evaporate might be my perfect kind of my skin but better tan shade, but it ended up being very, very peachy despite looking almost like a dusty pinky nude in the pot. Exothermic is beautiful, but again, just not a shade that I would really reach for, so I think it's time to pass these along. I was very excited to receive this Victoria Beckham highlighter in the shade Pearl in PR, and it is beautiful. It's a gorgeous, glossy cream stick highlight, and there aren't any chunky particles. It just looks like glossy skin. The thing for me is that it does stay a bit tacky on the skin, and I do prefer highlighters that set down, and I don't want anything to stick to my face. I just found that this did not look the best on my skin. I'm hoping you can see it in the B-roll clip. I think it might have lifted my blush a little bit, and it does have a bit of an oily feeling, so it's just not my favorite texture, and I'd rather send this to someone who's going to be really excited to try it. I'm also decluttering the Saie Highlighter that was limited edition. It was a collab with Reformation and they called this Ref Rose. It was a beautiful formula and I loved it for a while. Gorgeous kind of rosy tan color. It worked really well with my skin tone, but it was limited edition, so I'm never gonna wear it in a video because I know you guys can't get it. Beautiful product, but it's just time for it to go. This is a tough one. This is the LH Cosmetics Shaping Light in Cool Glow, and I really love the way that this looks on the skin, but I just haven't found the best way to use it. Truly, I think this is best as a glowy primer, but it's a little too glowy for me personally. I like my In Beauty face glaze on days when my skin feels a little bit dull because that one is a little bit more natural. This is a lot glowier. And when I use it as a highlighter, I find that because it's a liquid texture, it just really blends. And so it can kind of get outside the area that I want. I just have to be really careful when I use it. But also I've been finding that this has quite a bit of base pigment to it. And so when I apply it on top of my blush, you can really see this like stripe. It just looks like it took the blush away. You can definitely apply this under your blush instead, but honestly, I just have so many highlighters that work flawlessly no matter how I apply them that I've just been finding I don't reach for this. Oh man, that one hurts to get rid of. I really do love that product, but I just have to be honest with myself about what I'm using, and I would rather products go to someone who's excited to use them rather than just sitting in my drawer not getting used and then me waiting for them to expire and then having to put them in the trash. You know what I mean? Similar problem with the Armani Fluid Sheer number 2. So this is a liquid, but it sets down very quickly. So I like that it doesn't stay tacky on the skin. That's great. But this has quite a lot of base pigment to it. So I have the same issue as I did with LH Cosmetics. When I apply it on top of blush, it just looks like a stripe on my cheek and it looks like the blush is completely missing. I do like to apply my blush kind of higher around my temple to kind of give a little bit more of a lifted effect. And the thing is, if you apply this under blush, it's so subtle that it doesn't really show up. So for me, I thought it was beautiful at first, but then I started realizing that base pigment was just a little bit too strong. So it's pretty new and I'm just gonna send it to someone who'd like to use it. A product you guys recommended to me that I loved for a very long time is the Laura Mercier Matte Radiance Baked Highlighter. This is beautiful. It's so skin-like, very soft focus glow on the skin. For me though, this color is a little bit too warm for my skin. I like something that pops with a little bit more of like a whitish, not really whitish, but just like a more cool toned color, or something a little pinky to match the undertones in my skin. But also now I own the Bare Minerals Highlighting Blush in Opal Glow. I'm wearing it on my cheeks today and it's just my all-time favorite powder highlighter. I will never reach for this if I have this. This is definitely a little bit more intense than the Laura Mercier. It looks so glossy on the skin, but it's a powder. It's never chunky. I'll leave a video on the screen above where I reviewed this because I just love it so much. And lastly, a new addition to my collection that everybody's raving about and I just cannot get it to work is the Makeup Forever Artist Highlighter in Wherever Pearl. Some people say that this is like the most beautiful, natural, glossiest powder they've ever tried. And then a couple people I know have said it looks chunky and textured and it's just really difficult to work with. I'll leave a YouTube short linked on the screen above where I applied this in a bunch of different application methods so you can see how I was struggling. No brush gets this to work well. Apparently you have to tap it very lightly in the pan and then just tap it lightly on the skin. I've tried that though, and honestly, it either looks like nothing's there or it looks like big chunks of white glitter particles, and it's just, yeah, it's not my fave. So that's it for part 1 of this declutter series. Stay tuned for part 2, which is gonna be a lot of eyeshadows and lip products that I'm not using. If you wanna keep watching my content, I'll leave a video on the screen for you, and wherever you are, I hope you're having an awesome day. I'll see you in the next one.